Hey everyone, welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. I'm your hostess, Dr. Adrienne McKeon, and today we have Shenira Billups. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, very pleased to be on the show. Thank you for having me. My name is Shenira Billups. I'm a national certified counselor and licensed professional counselor here, right in the heart of the city of New Haven. I work in my practice, Mental Growth and Internal Healing LLC, and I'm also associated with the Essence LLC, comprised of myself and four other colleagues, but in Hartford, Connecticut. And I am also director over behavioral health services with Altogether Healing Incorporated. So
Awesome.
busy.
Yes, busy, busy. Absolutely. So I'm going to start with my first question. What story is the world not getting?
Well, the biggest one I could think about, and it's been the ongoing story for the last year, I feel, lack of resources is always going to put everyone in a crunch, no matter which way you put it. It doesn't matter where you're at, eventually it gets to the top. So the lack of resources and the lack of sharing.
Yeah. Can you say more
Mhm.
about that? Because that's such a deep
Sure.
topic.
And I feel it is a deep topic. The biggest challenge that I've found over the 2020 year and even prior, but I feel that this whole quote unquote COVID crisis and other things has really put a damper and kind of opened up forget a can of worms, like a whole basket of snakes, if you will, as far as what the lack of resources can really do to a person. I mean, people that you think that are pretty well off, you're finding that are in tremendous crunch because of there not being enough attention being paid to across the spectrum, no matter what walk of life people are coming from. The gap between rich and poor has it might have been acceptable for a minute because as soon as you see people being okay, it's like, all right, well, things will be all right. But then the rubber really meets the road when you see that things are really being ignored and people are withholding. And then what happens is stuff needs to be dispersed, and you're seeing that resources need to be shared. So I feel that also impacts my line of work because these resources, lack thereof, also links with the different behavioral health diagnoses that others present with. If they can't get it addressed in the right way, whether or not it's through dealing with psychotherapy or medication management, families don't have enough time, energy, knowledge because they're restricted to certain areas, and that just leaves them in a rut.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't give, specific names, but if you could give us an example to help us
Mhm.
understand what your clients are going through, that would be great.
Well, I have a number of clients, some of which are also dealing with post incarceration.
Mm,
And I have a few families where there's single moms and they are dealing with having had a record, but they have far long been out of that situation. They're trying to obtain a better education, but also trying to deal with child care. They're single parents. The partner is not being responsible. And maybe in some cases, they've tried to accept the partner back for the sake of helping out the family, but the partner just responds in a more abusive or condescending way. And they get in this constant grip of, okay, since this is happening and I care for my family so much, I need to put my family first. But that would mean delaying these other things that would actually help my family pull forward. And
yeah.
then you have outsiders looking in and just supposing, oh, they're just a part of the status quo. They're just another one of those. No, they are actually busting their butts, but because of the red tape that's been placed over them, because of their history, it's like not having records expunged, looking at situations closer, or when they go and they're trying to gain resources from places, how they are limited because of their current situation or where they're coming from as far as socioeconomic status, in terms of background and perhaps history. So these lack of resources and multiply these kind of families times 10, 20, and this is not uncommon. It happens, and it's like they cry loud and cry even louder. And keep in mind, these families, they have children. These children are seeing these tears that their parents are going through, trying to make ends meet, and they go through the trauma themselves, and it just ends up adding hurt upon hurt upon hurt. This lack of resources increases, expands the gap, expands the gap. But understand, these children who are offspring, they're not going to close it up. They're going to open up their mouths, but you would hope that they advocate in the right way. But sometimes it doesn't always happen that way because they've been given the back end of things. They retaliate, and it becomes a
Mm,
behavioral issue. And then it gives the world more reason to say, point fingers and say, see, that's what we mean. But it's
right.
of their own doing because they were limiting in the first place when the family was trying. So that constant circle in terms of lack of resources and the lack sharing thereof. It's not to say that resources aren't present. No, I didn't say that, but the lack of the resources, meaning that the families aren't able to obtain.
Yeah. How has that played out in your personal experience?
I, me being a single mother, is I would say that I've been blessed to be able to have an education background and working with these families myself, even prior to being a single mother, but also understanding like it's it is challenging. If I didn't have the background I did, if I wasn't aware of things as far as my surroundings and even with my family, like they do everything they can to be as supportive as they can, but people have limitations. So
Yeah.
they are served much as an emotional support, but even that serves as such a blessing for me. But then when I look at what I'm doing with as far as the communities that I manage and seeing the struggle of people who are really trying, but they just don't have, it's heartbreaking. It
Yeah.
truly is heartbreaking. And you do, as even as a behavioral health professional, you do your best not to take these things home with you, and just trying to separate home from professional life. Sometimes it is a challenge. It's something that us professionals deal with every time. I've been doing it in this field for over 10 years, and nothing ever gets easier. I even have a I have a child with special needs, and that even had been an experience for me as in my personal life, in terms of understanding and knowing how he learns and understanding him as to be an individual and not just another number,
Yeah.
really understanding him and not labeling him, but understanding his diagnosis as being a piece of what he is or who he is, but not letting it define who he can be. So it's plenty that comes and intertwines in my personal life in terms of understanding the lack of resources and what can happen.
Absolutely. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your experience in the year 2020.
Whoo, child. Lord have mercy. Whoo, talk about experience. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try to sum it up in that I've went through a number of changes personally, professionally, having to learn how to get through the hoops of life as far as in terms of relationships and even with the social distancing going on, reframing that even for myself and also dealing with a number of clientele who were trying to understand it, and even with those who were making breakthroughs as far as dealing with social in terms of communication and challenges with it. Now 2020 sets in, and
Yeah.
all bets are off after
All
March.
bets are off.
And even with the children, that had been a true challenge as well, where you have the kiddos and they're in school and they're trying to manage their anxiety with things. Now, it might have been okay for them, like, okay, I don't have to deal with that trigger anymore. But it's like, what about the growth and helping them
Mhm.
to develop and understand through peer relationships and knowing their world? So that becomes a challenge too. So, uh, knowing that that had been challenged and also again having my own family to deal with, it's like, okay, finding the balance has been the biggest thing. And being a sole like business owner and
Mhm.
pushing it out, just having a mind, keeping strong,
Yeah.
mentally strong. That had been the key factor for anything and everything, keeping mentally strong and knowing what it means to be okay with something being put down if you can do it that way. I've learned a lot about business relationships. Not every lesson was the greatest, but it was necessary. I'm going to leave it at that because I like to be respectful of people's spaces. However, I will say that it's taught me a lot about what business means also behind the scenes, because not everyone is for you. But what you can be reassured is that there's a lesson to be learned in every connection that you make, but it's up to that individual to actually be open to that. As a professor, I also teach at Southern Connecticut State University as an adjunct professor in psychology department. As a professor, I've learned that learning is we learn by way of our experiences. Doesn't say it's always positive, but you can certainly take something from it. And I have to say that 2020 was definitely a teacher.
Yes.
It's like one of them professors that say that you know you're going to fail class if you don't do your work, but I'm gonna cut you some slack though, and I'm gonna help you out if you just hang with me for a while. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but I'll be upfront with you. That's the kind of teacher 2020 has been. The
Yeah,
kind of
20
professor I'm like, I didn't like it much, but you know what? I passed the class.
exactly. You know what? I learned a lot. Absolutely. I had a professor in graduate school who made me cry at my master's defense. But you know
Oh,
what? She was right. She was 100% right about everything she said. And she
mhm.
made my research better and she made me
Yes.
stronger.
And that's the type of professor you want. That's
Hmm.
the type of professor that you can have as long as you give them that opportunity. See, now I feel that even with that realization that you had in terms of that professor, it could have been easy that, yeah, that professor totally sucked if you chose not to take that experience and actually apply it the way maybe it was intended. Who knows? Maybe she intended to make your life, a living hell, but she was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to see this in a positive light. But whatever the case was, your experience, you chose to make that experience something worthwhile, and you got a lot out of that by seeing it. You actually made me better.
Yeah, so what actually happened was she said to me after that, after she saw me crying, you need to take my writing seminar next quarter. And
Wow.
this was a big blow to my ego because I was the writer, right? Writing was my thing. And so it
Mhm.
so embarrassing to think that I needed to take a writing class. But what it
Mhm.
was a research writing class. And
Mhm.
academic writing is different. It's different
Mhm.
than the other writing that I had done. And so
Mhm.
taking her class made me realize that by the end, I wrote an essay that she had me read in front of the whole class and then stood up and said, "Now that is academic writing." So the story had a happy ending.
Okay, I like it. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. But,
I'm telling you, it's like almost like what they say about a bad breakup. A bad breakup sometimes exactly will make you feel or understand what a good relationship is when it comes along. Because you
woo,
recognize all the signs and you see it and it happens.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
longtime listeners know that I was in an abusive marriage. I survived
Hmm.
that. I've written books about it. But
Hmm.
absolutely, I think that, it's not that these people give you superpowers, right? You already
Hmm.
had those superpowers. You just didn't know you needed them until you got that
Exactly.
push.
Hmm. Yep. You and all of a sudden had that chemical blowout and boom, it
Boom.
ignited all that superpower that was already in you. Just a chemical effect. That's all you needed.
Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
I'm definitely hearing the challenges from 2020,
Hmm.
hearing a lot about
Hmm.
resilience being that
Hmm.
kind of gift that 2020 gave you. Were there
Hmm.
other lessons or other gifts that 2020 ended up giving you when you passed that difficult class?
Oh, goodness, creativity. Understanding that old phrase, there is more than one way to skin a cat.
Uh-huh.
You learn resilience, you learn survival, and not only survival, but actually thriving. And that's where we want to be in
Yeah.
life, right? We don't want to just live by the skin of our teeth. I mean, granted, mind you, at times that might happen and necessary to happen maybe just a short while, just so that you can go ahead and make it over the hump of something. But from there, that's when you go full speed ahead and you're like, listen, no, I gotta do this thing. That creativity also adds a level of boldness, I would say, because when you try something new and you get all these ideals in place, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna push out, I'm gonna decide to birth forth. It's like a now or never kind of situation because, like, why not? Why haven't I ever realized that before? And sometimes spending all that time in the seclusion will help to ignite ideas. You can choose to either waste your time and be like, oh man, all the stores are closed and I can't go nowhere. Or you can be like, you know what? Let me take this time to kind of expand my learning or find these other ways of communication. How can I uh, better my business through different ways? Or what can I actually learn about myself? What have I not actually addressed in my own home? I'm trying to do a live. But in any case, so yeah, it just expands your creativity and just helps you out with understanding a different part of you. That's what 2020 did for me.
Yeah.
I think that even with my profession, you talk to clients so much, right, about insight, about mindfulness, about being open and being able to sit with silence and all these other great things. There's a whole nother playing field when you kind of put in the same position.
Hmm.
And I find it like it's so funny because it's like, wow, you know, when you go and you talk to clients about things that I get this often for myself when I'm about to encounter something that might be an intense type of session or a situation with one of my clients. I find that is so weird. I'm like, man, I just went through something similar myself not too long ago. I'm like, is this a funny trick? It's like I don't like God be playing me.
Uh-huh.
Is this, are you trying to help me out? But I find those two that and that's another thing 2020 has definitely done for me, increasing my level of empathy, understanding what it really means to empathize with an individual, with persons. Uh, because when you're brought through situations, it has a way of humbling you. It really does. And even when an individual might come across uh, something that's so challenging as far as another person who might deal with stuff, it's like looking at it from I've been through that before. And you know what? I understand to a degree. I can't understand you fully, but I can understand to a degree what you might be going through, and I hear you. And that's all. That's what people want to feel like, right? They want to feel heard. So between all this creativity and just learning how to adjust thereof and being much more empathic with other people, it's been an amazing experience. Not easy, but definitely worth it.
Shanira, it's so funny that you said that because I was just thinking about that earlier this morning, that
Mhm,
phenomenon that happens as a coach, that things that were
mhm,
just you were just thinking about or just dealing with come up with
mhm,
clients. And it's like I have a perfect story for you. I really do think that that is, universe, God, whatever you want to call that energy,
mhm,
like letting you
mhm,
know, like, yeah, I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to send you
mhm,
lessons that are going to be useful to you.
mhm. I'm so sorry. I have my wonderful
That's
7-year old who.
wonderful. Hello.
Hold on, Malachi. The realities of a mom. That's a. It
Being a
just.
mom, you don't get a day off. You don't get a break. There are no breaks.
It's every day. It's every
Hmm.
day. And now he's curious. So, but
Bye.
yes, I definitely agree. It's a definite phenomenon. But I think that's also a part of the shared human experience. Hold on, Malachi. I'll be right with you. Okay, go back to your room. Bye bye. So
What a
I love
cutie.
that boy to pieces. Love
Hmm.
that baby. 7 going on 70. But we have our, I feel strong that we have our shared experiences as human beings. It's amazing how the connection that we get is so intrinsic. Like it's not looked for, it's not always experienced, but we are social creatures by nature. We thrive on how we connect in terms of society, even for those who consider themselves to be hermits or, just withdrawn, being deep level introverts. Even introverts need some kind of connection. Like
Yeah.
everyone needs some level of connection, even if it's the most minute, but we have these shared experiences which are just, it's just amazing how you can at the very moment that we're talking about this, someone can be going through the same thing and having
Yeah.
that kind of emotional impact is just it's crazy
Yeah.
and it's wonderful.
So, as a single mom, can
Mhm.
you take us into like a rock bottom moment? Just like, I don't know if I can do this.
um I'm sorry, I just saw my son do something crazy.
Speaking of which,
That's why my face went like, I know, that's exactly what I was thinking. Speaking of which, hold on, Malachi, I'll be right with you, okay? All right, so rock bottom moment when I was going through my divorce. That was something that was very, that's what made me feel like I could actually do it. When I have moments like that, where
we're
it's like,
showing, not telling. It's perfect.
I,
I love it.
exactly. But so even when I was going through my divorce and I was doing my best to go through it. Now it's funny, right? Because I'm a therapist, but I'm going through all this, and I do couples counseling and all that, and it's like I have a divorce going on that I didn't ask for, and there's a lot that went on that it was just for me it was like really weird. But my rock bottom moment had to be the day that it actually was finalized.
Mhm.
And that was a lot for me because I mean I just disclosure, I had a serious panic attack that day. The whole time through the proceedings, dealing with the separation, everything was formalized. I kept the business. What this is what we're going to do. There was no arguments. There was no negative emotions. I even made it clear, hey, listen, if you want to reverse everything, you can at this point. But if not, I respect your decision. It's okay. And I held it like people didn't even know Malachi. Please, sorry. He pressed his phone just trying to see
He's trying
everything.
so hard.
He is, but people didn't even know that I was actually dealing with relationships, even with our close college friends. You can sit with me, Malachi. They didn't even know that was. I guess I was the key to have him go back to his room.
Yeah,
They didn't
exactly.
even know that I was dealing with relationship issues. Now it's really challenging, right? When you have it where uh, those who don't know are also close friends of the both of you. So they're
Yeah.
not knowing. It's like, when do we talk about it? And we even talked about that formally, but the day that it happened, it was, we both signed papers. We even sat with each other in the court, and the people found it strange, including the judge. Like, wow, you got to sit with each other? Yeah, like it's another meeting, but it was it was my kind of realization of just how human I am
Mm.
when those papers were signed, and then he left the courtroom, and I was behind. I was actually alone, and for me that hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, it felt like the wind was knocked out of me. All the emotions that I did not allow myself to feel. And that's why I encourage my clients to do all the time, right? Funny. I encourage them to feel, allow yourself to feel. I just realized at that moment, I let myself be numb to those emotions that probably were keen for me to actually deal with. And I
Yeah.
wasn't dealing. I was holding on simply to the mere fact that I had a piece of paper still bonding me to this other individual who we had a shared experience with to develop this child that we brought into the world. So I was willfully holding on to that and trying to maintain or keep my level of composure. Honorable, however, how smart was that? I dealt with it though that day. Those couple of minutes where he left, and it just like literally I was having a hard time breathing. I started hyperventilating and I was really trying to control my breathing. I couldn't figure out what was going on. The room started I started getting dizzy. The room started spinning a little bit and getting a little dark. And I was just holding on to whatever I could. And the bailiff asked me if I was okay. I was like, yeah, I just need a minute. I can't breathe. So, and then all of a sudden, like involuntarily, the tears started falling. I didn't even, it wasn't even a loud cry, but it was just a somber cry from the depths of me. And just for those few minutes that felt like an eternity, I felt, and it was just a general feeling, it was everything. And I questioned myself. But then I had to quickly pull myself up and tell myself, this is just the first day. Give yourself time. These things are going to take time. And this does not define who you are. I had to be my own encouragement, my own support. Yes, I had other people in there to tell me whatever, but we all know that there's nothing like when you're able to actually be convinced yourself. You can
Yeah.
draw a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. And that day, I was a grand stallion. And I was like, I have to take this. I have to do it. I have to put on my big girl panties and handle my business. I have to do it and make sure that afterwards I'll just continue on. I still remember the day was a few days before Christmas, and I was really fighting with the thought of, wow, Merry Christmas to me. You left me with the present of separation. I had every reason to be bitter. And it took me a little while to get over that feeling of being bitter, being emotional, and all that. And I admit, even now, dealing with forgiveness is one thing that I'm also still managing. And I feel
Yeah.
that's for any relationship when it ends so sour and unexpected. And he just pressed the screen again. Bye, Malachi. Smirking. He's so silly. Um, kids, what are you gonna do? So that though was definitely a moment. Malachi, no, no TV. He's doing he's trying to play Netflix. One of the loud cartoon shows. But yes, that was definitely a moment where I had to realize that even though I felt that terrible feeling of just emptiness and I felt kind of drained, I had to hurry and pick myself up because I recognized that. I have to say mindfulness is so key,
Mm.
so key. If you're going to manage things, it's important to maintain a level of mindfulness because that will be your saving grace. It will save you by every time. Because when those things come in that sneak up on you, whether or not emotionally or environmentally, whatever, if you know yourself and understand what's around you, it's you can help that as being your lifesaver and just come to grips with things and be a little bit more grounded, concrete. It's super helpful with that. So, but that was definitely have to be my moment of as a single mom, understanding how single I was.
Yeah.
That was that was a lot. It was
So
a
there's
lot.
two things that I want to respond to in there. First, I completely agree. I think feeling is healing, and feelings that get pushed down, they're like this little kid, like Malachi, who keeps coming back, like, Mom, 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 getting like
Exactly.
louder and louder every time until you finally are like, what? What?
Exactly. Exactly.
And you'll
Exactly.
have that moment where you're like,
Mhm.
what is it? And the
Mhm.
feelings will flood in. And so, like,
Mhm.
as soon as that feeling comes up, just take a moment to acknowledge it. See, like, hi, no, yes,
Exactly.
grief, I see you there. I
Mhm.
know. You have love and you have nowhere to put it. I know,
Mhm.
and just
Yes.
taking that moment will help you through. The other thing is,
Exactly.
people always talk about, oh, I don't know how she does it. Like, she's so brave and so amazing. It's like, well, she didn't really have a choice. Like, life just gives you these situations, right? Like, it's not like you signed up. Like, you know what I'd really like to do? I would like to be the single mom of a special needs child. That sounds great. Sign me up for that.
Yep. Let me
Like,
have all the responsibility of everything. Let me go and do that.
nobody does that. Nobody does that. But the thing is, when this
Mhm.
stuff comes, which, life happens, right?
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
this stuff comes, it's how you handle it that really matters. And it
Mhm.
sounds like you are really taking your time with this and giving
Yes.
yourself a chance to grieve it and heal from it. And that is so important.
And I think also what's important is understanding like the grieving process, whether or not you're dealing with broken relationship, a person passing away, the ending of a profession, the sense, any kind of sense of loss can be associated with grief. And grief is a process that can be ongoing, but it doesn't have to be um, destitute. It doesn't have to be something that is the end all, but you can grow from it and understand more of yourself when you provide that level of acknowledgement. I feel that people, especially in America, oh my gosh, we have this whole thing of get over it type of syndrome, and it does nothing well. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I tell people, don't get over it, get through it, and ask
Yeah.
yourself, what is it that I need? Who do I need to get through? I was talking to another client of mine tonight actually, and discussing with her family system and how she's been able to get it where her like she's able to get both of her kids out the house. She's a single mom, get both her kids out the house with the godparents willing to take them for a whole weekend. Like amazing. So I'm like, what's your village look like? I just want to know. And she told me the whole history of everything. This woman has a phenomenal story. And it's the key to it was it wasn't that like, her like she had also knowing powers or whatever, but we talked a lot about her intuition. She
Mm.
calls it her reading. And it's like, yeah, that intuition that you have when you're mindful and you choose to listen to that inner part and not just try to silence it, but really look at it. And you don't always have to feed into it, depending upon where it's coming from, but just understanding it can land you in a better position than what you may have been if you were to just completely ignore it or just put it on the back burner somewhere. So it's super important just to have that mindfulness of how it's like where you stand with stuff, and you can really build that stamina to push for another day.
Yeah. So I'm hearing so many wonderful tools that people can use to get through these difficult times, even when we do lack resources and we do lack a
Mhm,
village and all the things that we need. So what I've heard is
mhm,
resilience, I've heard mindfulness, I've heard
mhm.
feeling is healing.
Hmm. Oh, good. A good colleague of mine said this. It was phenomenal for me. You can't heal what you can't feel, or you can't
Mm.
heal what you don't reveal. That's what she said.
There
You
you
can't
go.
heal what you don't
Don't
reveal. It has
reveal.
to come to surface. It has to.
Yeah, you
Mhm,
got to share your story. You have to share your
mhm,
story. Absolutely.
mhm.
Yes. Shame
Definitely.
loves the dark. It
Uh-huh.
thrives in there.
Hmm.
So as soon as you
Exactly.
expose it to sunlight, then it's like, oh, I don't like it here.
Exactly. Exactly, exactly. It's a bringing a different thing from trauma to triumph. That's where
Yeah,
you want to be. That's where we
beautiful.
want to be.
So,
Definitely.
how else has this changed you, this experience?
I feel that it's helped me to grow into another phase of my life
Mhm.
where um, knowing in a different sense probably sounds so corny, but I don't care. But it really means to be hashtag adulting. That has been my theme. Hashtag adulting. It's like, I mean, I'm not sure how many out there are familiar with Eric Erickson's stages of development, but I'm like, man, there's so much because I taught on that. And it's like, wow. I mean, you just look at it and you're just realizing so many things when situations, it's like you can read about things, but you don't truly start to understand the implications thereof until you're put in the hot seat of having to apply it. And you just gotta breathe, be like, hashtag adulting.
I loved what you said earlier about, put on your big girl panties. I used to be like, do I have those? Like, where do they sell them? Because
You
I'm
ain't
not
gotta gird it
sure
up,
somebody gave me
gird it
that.
up. Go shopping for it. Look for them
Uh-huh.
in your size. Order offline, but get the big girl panties on.
So
Do your
sit down and
business.
sew them.
Sew them. Hang them together.
Absolutely. Well, we're about to transition into this little exercise that I love to do with my guests. But first, I want to give you a
Awesome.
chance to give the audience what you think is the biggest takeaway from this experience for them.
So the biggest takeaway, don't don't be afraid to be who you are. Who you might feel you are in the moment can be someone that you want to continue to be, or it may be someone that you desire to change, or it may be someone that you desire just to add on to. Understand that life is a fluid concept. It just doesn't stop at one point, but it's important to be open for learning at any point. You never know what you can encounter, but understand when you do come across situations that you are definitely stronger than what you may give yourself credit for, and never be afraid to ask for help.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to have you close your eyes,
Hmm.
get nice and comfy. There we go. Nice deep breath. And as you breathe in this next time, I want you to see colored light filling your body. And just tell me what color that light was.
Like a light blue.
Okay. And just breathe in again and see if it's the same or different.
Kind of weird. I get this yellow orange.
Nice. All right. And so I'm going to wave a magic wand over here. And when I do that,
Mhm.
everything that you deeply desire will have come to pass here in this moment. And I want you to visualize what that ideal world looks like and just tell me the first thing you see. So now I'm going to wave my magic wand. So, what's the first thing you see?
I'm sitting in the office and the surroundings is very wide and it's daylight. It looks like it might be early afternoon. I might be dressed in a suit, whatever the case may be. I'm well dressed, but more so my view is me looking outside of myself, and the windows are high up and all open, skylining. So it seems like I might be above a city, maybe on the top floor.
What can you
And then
smell?
I have fresh coffee,
Mmm, nice.
French vanilla,
Mmm. What can you hear?
the soft, faint sounds of people whispering outside of my office. Just work, a lot of busy work, more so machines moving,
Hmm. What feeling do you get from this space?
satisfaction.
Mm, fantastic. So you're doing this incredibly meaningful, satisfying work here, it sounds like.
And I have my wedding band on. I'm just sitting. I'm just doing things. I have a family picture. Mm, It's just that I'm waiting for the time to go away, but while in the process, I'm just managing work.
So someone comes in who just wants to thank you for some help that you gave them recently. Maybe it was something that you said that was a major insight for them or something that you did, but you can just see on their face they are so grateful for your help. And I just want you to revel in that for a moment. And then I want you to go someplace else. And this is kind of your secret happy place that maybe nobody else even knows about. And what does that look like?
I don't know what room this is, but it seems to be another room with tall open windows, glass windows, and again, the sky is the viewable piece. It's all blue and it's light outside. I'm in terry cloth robe and slippers,
Mhm.
everything. My hair is up and all the furniture is white, including the bed, nice, soft, and plush with red outlining.
Mm.
There's a bowl of grapes that's next to my bed, and I'm just doing nothing.
I want you to smell that there's this wonderful cooking smell going on somewhere nearby. And you just know that that food is being prepared for you by someone who loves you very much.
Mm.
And just feel that, what it feels like to be taken care of for a moment. And now something unexpectedly wonderful happens. What is it?
My husband comes to the door.
Hmm. And take that moment and just really drink that in. That look on his face of just, he's so happy to see you. He's been waiting for this all day. You are his world, and you can just see that in his eyes. Beautiful. And now he gives you some really good news,
Mhm.
and you decide you're going to celebrate. What are you going to do to celebrate?
We're gonna go out. We're gonna go
Nice.
out to the most wonderful dining restaurant ever. I'm not gonna eat a bunch of stuff. I just wanna have a nice glass of wine,
Mm,
sit, maybe try things here and there, and revel in my own dessert.
yeah, so I want you to just taste that wine for a moment. Mm, and that dessert, and
Oh,
just
God.
that feeling of delight and joy. Beautiful. All right, you can open your eyes.
Wow.
You're so good at this. I love it.
I'm a very visual person.
Mhm, mhm. I can always tell, like, some people just like, I'm there, and some people are like, "What are we doing? I don't understand." That's awesome. So, I just want you to know that that is yours. You can go to that space anytime.
Definitely.
And one thing that
Definitely.
I love to do, I make little slideshows with my visions. And like on my computer, I just make a little slideshow. I put some music behind it, and
Hmm.
I play that every morning just to get myself in like the right headspace.
Communion. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. I love it. I love that guided imagery. That's something that we use in with the counseling psychology. Guided imagery is a beautiful thing. It's really helpful in terms of easing anxiety, decreasing
Mhm.
depression, helping with forward thinking, the flow and organization of thoughts, grounding exercises, all of that. Guided imagery is amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. So, how can people find you if they wanted to get in touch or find out more about what you do?
Definitely. So I do have an Instagram, which is MGIH or at MGIH LLC. And there's also my other Instagram at clinical underscore Lynn, which is spelled LYNN, two N's as in Nancy. I do have a Facebook, professional Facebook, which is under MGIH or Mental Growth and Internal Healing. And I also have a website, mentalgrowthinternalhealing.com. You can reach me by email if you want, info mgih at gmail.com. And I also have my business number, 203-873-1262, if you're looking for any type of services. We do telehealth as well. So I do have clients that are in the New York area. My lights are cutting off all the time. Clients in the New York area and all over. So what's important just to get started today.
Yes.
There are other websites too that I have as far as I'm doing with, again, it's the Essence Behavioral Health LLC, and Altogether Healing Inc. And I'll be sharing these more so on my social media. For those who are in the New Haven, Hamden area or beyond, you feel like traveling, there is a small business vendors event going on tomorrow being hosted by Mental Growth and Internal Healing LLC, along with Honor That Sweets LLC and a Break from Life LLC. We're coming together. We do this annually, and we just help out small businesses in the area just get together, help to sell and showcase some of their products, and just encourage the economic factors of our communities and bring people together. So please come out, and that'll be on my social media as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
wonderful.
you. Yes, yes, indeed. I appreciate the opportunity.